Hey, this is Ryan with DSX Motorsports, and I think I'm on day 7. I don't know, but we're still going, and that's awesome. Driving the Suburban with like a new camera angle today, which I don't know if I like it. The windshield's like so strange on the Suburban that I feel like it's just hard to get a good video for you guys. But yeah, let's get pulled out here in old traffic. Get that old 6-liter going. There we go. Oh yeah, listen to that V8 power. But anyway, so yeah, leaving work, driving home, and one of the first things I saw this morning, I don't know why it didn't occur to me before. So the RP968 is the fancy Porsche piloted by Bart Maurer that was the fastest car at World Time Attack for 2019 and 2020. So Horsepower Academy interviewed this guy who was hella familiar, ended up being the guy who's the engineer or whatever who built, designed the billet motor that they run in the RP968. He was at the after party while we're in Sydney. It was super crazy. And you know, he was there and I didn't even think about it. I just figured, oh yeah, these guys just, you know, made a billet motor or whatever. There's a lot of companies out there making billets, short blocks, and you know, cases and stuff. There's even a company in Australia that's basically taken making an RB30 short block essentially that uses the 2JZ bearings. Just weird stuff. So anyway, so when that guy kind of came up to me, I didn't really think about it at all. And I really didn't chat him up, which is kind of a shame because it turns out what they did was freaking crazy. So this morning, I saw a video that Horsepower Academy did an interview with them last year for the 2019 series. And they were talking about basically the motor. So like the quick facts of that motor, it's all billet block, all billet head, all basically they took the initial design of the 4-cylinder motor and started from there, but pretty much re-engineered the whole thing. But that engine is capable of 3,000 horsepower, and he said it would take about 5 bar of boost is what he thought it would take, and run 10,500 RPM. So those are like the quick facts. The more technical side of it is they're talking about basically how they started manufacturing it or designing it or engineering it. So the first thing that they did is took an original motor, one of the original 4-cylinder 2.8 liter or 3 liters, whatever size they were. They put that motor in a CNC machine, I think he said, rigged it in there, and then they basically had, you know, one of the heads or some component inside of it, basically taking all these measurements of all the angles, all the stuff that bolted onto the block, all the OEM stuff like, you know, alternator, power steering, I don't know, whatever accessories are on it, motor mounts, things like that. Get all the angles, and of course they were working with, you know, variation, you know, like the angles and stuff like that. But basically, first thing they did is essentially map the whole block, and then once they mapped the block, from there they started with basically a big chunk of billet. I think they're talking about, so, I mean, he talked about so many different types, like 6061, 6072, I don't even know. Probably a bunch of stuff I've never even heard of before. But essentially started with that, and they got rid of everything on the block that they didn't even need. Like the stuff that they started with that, and then they made their own flat plane crank instead of running a traditional crank. So their own custom crank. They're running drag racing rods, basically aluminum con rods that they say need to be replaced. This was last year, of course, 2019. Need to be replaced every day. It's like every day of track abuse that they did on that thing, they were worried that the con rods would fatigue. They punched this thing out to 4 liters of displacement. They mapped the whole cooling passages, mapped all of it. This is crazy. It's an open deck design. It's not a closed deck motor. This thing's capable of 3,000 horsepower, and it's a open deck design. He said there is like stiffening ribs and support ribs built into the block to essentially keep the cylinder heads in place. But that's crazy. They did that for cooling. The head, 100% built from scratch, billet piece. They reversed the intake and exhaust placement so that they had more room for a larger turbo. So they swapped the flow characteristic, like the flow of the head. They even did stuff like one of the things we're talking about to hold, 5 bar of boost, which that's got to be like 70 some odd psi, 5 times 14, like 70 psi of boost. To hold that much boost pressure, if they ever ran it that far, they went in and stress tested all the basically the parts of the block that were holding the head together, and they even cut out webbing in some of the components of the block to move the strength inboard or more outboard, or have a part that, they're just like the craziest stuff they went into building this motor. And then the stroke ratio, they talked about the stroke. They were really adamant on a certain stroke length. They didn't want it to be any more than that. And the engineer was he wasn't necessarily disappointed, but I think he expected to try and get more displacement out of it. But yeah, so the motor they used last year was a 4-liter. Custom, like I said, all billet everything. Custom crankshaft, oil pump and everything. It's all dry sumped, of course. The whole thing just looks like in the picture that they had of it, and I've seen it in real life, but you see it as like a motor with all the, you can't see the underside of it. So you see it, with the intake on it and the exhaust on it. You see all that stuff, and you don't even think about how strange it looks. But when they had it as a long block assembly, the bottom of it looks so funny, and I don't know, it was all crazy. They even it barely looks like what I would think what a motor would look like. Looked like just so smooth everywhere. It was nuts. Everything's O-ringed, even the girdle plate, so they don't have to, if they when they do a conrod swap, they can do the conrod swap, in an hour or something crazy. They don't even have to take the head off of it. They don't have to wait for any silicone to dry. Everything is O-ringed. And I think Zach has talked about maybe building a transmission or something like that where everything's O-ring just to save time for leaks and stuff. And that's just pretty crazy. But the craziest thing of all this stuff is you have to ask yourself how many people are in the market for a billet 928 Porsche motor, 4-cylinder. It's not it's like inline 4-cylinder. Who's in the market for that stuff? And this thing, I can't imagine very many. This engine costs 120,000 euros. That's what they sell them for. And to me, that is bonkers. So yeah, I imagine it's like a super limited group of people would even be remotely interested. Even the platform, the car platform, sure, this team, Bart Maurer and these guys are kind of putting maybe it on the map in this sense. Who would have thought a 928 would be competitive? But let's face it, how much of it's even normal anymore? I hear the wheelbase is different. All the suspension pickup points are different. Obviously, the aero is such a far departure from the car that it only lightly resembles the original car. So, just crazy to me. Super crazy. It was just listening to the stats, and I got to give it my hats off to the commentator for HB Academy. That guy is just so knowledgeable. He knows how to ask the right questions. He can instantly process the information, and he's asking and even really kind of keeping the engineer on track. get too carried away or overcomplicate one thing. Just, one thing at a time. And hats off to that guy, but definitely hats off to the engineering firm to even want to do or even willing to put that much effort into it. I mean, just wild. So super crazy, and I think it just goes to show you like what level that those top tier cars are, at World Time Attack. Like the fastest car we have in our country, that competes over here is either James Houghton's Integra or the PZ Tuning Civic, the Will Young one, or even the Life Motorsports Skyline, powered by Cole Powerson. And I think Cole, even though he got 5th place, maybe got 6th place overall for pro, was still like 10 seconds behind him. So that's how fast those cars are. Those cars are just stupid fast. So hopefully someday the Americans are catching up, or putting it out there like that. But it's just wild, super wild, and just like some crazy facts. 22,000 people attended the World Time Attack Challenge, the one that we just went to. 3 million viewers viewed their YouTube coverage, or I don't know, their live stream coverage. 3 million people. And here I was bragging about Hyperfest having up to 10,000 people there between spectators and competitors and all the stuff that they have going on at BIR. 10,000 people there. Grid Life events with 5,000 people attending it. You're seeing, if you're lucky, you're seeing 100,000 views on some of these live streams. But over, at World Time Attack, it's 3 million people tuning in. That's awesome. So I'm just excited. Excited about the Super Lap Battle getting that big. And even though it's been around since I think 2005, even though Time Attack's been around in the States since 2005 or so, it's kind of, I feel like it's really gaining momentum right now. So like I feel, even though I'm kind of behind in the sense that I just started this whole Time Attack thing, last year really, that I feel like I'm still getting in at the ground level. So super cool, super exciting. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. I mean, just one big topic, but really just an awe. And if you guys, are bored or after this, go and check out the Speed Academy video about the RP968. I think they call it the Thor motor, the RP968 engine breakdown. Go and look. I think they posted, that team has posted their World Time Attack record-setting, lap already from this year. I mean, just wild. And then check out some of the other teams that are doing it. I know that Haltech has got the Haltech Heroes, and they kind of follow the other Porsche 968, which is kind of silly. I don't know, maybe not silly, but the fact that there's 2 of them, and I was just saying, how common of a chassis is that thing really? But there was 2 of them there competing. But yeah, they kind of do a little highlight video, and it kind of gives you an idea of, a lot of the stuff that's going in with those cars too. So either way, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for checking out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you tell your friends about how awesome we are. Only a couple more days before I'm off, and then we'll get some new videos out. Old Jeanette Negri is stopping by the house. I'm excited to see her and follow up with her her SEMA visit, and just to kind of hear how that went, even though we've been kind of talking and stuff. But just I think it was just the overstimulation, I'm sure. It's just crazy there, and her first one, and I've never even been to one, so definitely need to make that trip next year. But yeah, hit the notification bell, subscribe, certainly give us a thumbs up. Even if you didn't like it, just give us a damn thumbs up anyway. But yeah, see you tomorrow.